we have to be aware about it. We have to be loud about it. And we have to defend it if we want still enjoy democracy, privacy, and our rights. And not only our rights, but also our future generations, because it's so easy to lose your rights. Look how many countries were able to restore their rights and how many years they spent to restore their rights. Every time when I hear, for example, that, we don't care about politicians, technology will prevail in 50 years. Show me one authoritarian state where society not fight for their rights and they will prevail with their rights. There is no single example. No example. All of us, we right now able to talk, not being arrested, tortured, just because we talk about freedoms, because someone did this job hundreds years ago, and we enjoy these rights.
The Anyas podcast is to inspire you and other women to reach new business heights. We are showing the human side to business and breaking the myth of overnight success. The Anyas encourages breaking barriers, fostering collaboration, and daring to dream big.
The community acts as a catalyst for personal and professional growth, providing a space where women thrive, innovate, and come to celebrate their achievements together.
Step into this inspiring new world with us and unlock limitless potential. Hi, I'm Lindsay Jew, and today we're honored to have Lyudmyla Kozlovska, the president of Open Dialogue Foundation, and she's joining us to speak on her work in human rights as well as Bitcoin advocacy. So welcome today. I just want to start off by asking you, you're a frequent traveler, and last week it looks like you were in Prague for the Building Bitcoin Bridges conference. Is that right?
Kind of at the BTC conference in Prague, yes. Building bridges, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and we're excited to dive into your work as well. Let me just read a few of your bullets from your background. I won't read everything that we pulled up in our research on you, but it's very impressive. Just briefly, she is as I mentioned, the president of Open Dialogue Foundation, or ODF. And she's worked extensively within human rights. She specializes in defending political prisoners, promoting democracy, and also monitoring human rights in the post-Soviet region. Open Dialogue Foundation was founded in 2009, and she also had some high-profile advocacy work for the release of numerous political prisoners. She's received international recognition. Despite facing political pressure and accusations, she has gained significant support from European politicians as well as various human rights activists. And she's also a prominent high-profile speaker and regularly speaks at international conferences and forums. So you may have seen her or heard her speak passionately before our podcast. And I just want to thank you for joining us and just dive right in. Where did you start your advocacy for Bitcoin? Because your background is extensive within human rights and political prisoners, but when did you start focusing more on Bitcoin and the Web3 realm?
Yeah, so first of all, I started to use Bitcoin and advocate for use of Bitcoin because I was financially excluded. Being in the very heart of Europe and living in Brussels, having all political support, as you mentioned, I was under attack of 3 authoritarian regimes. It was Kazakhstan, it was Poland during Law and Justice Party, and it was Moldova during Vlahotin time. And those regimes cooperated closely to weaponize banking data against of me, my family members, my organization, Open Dialogue Foundation, our company, over 600 volunteers, our lawyers, consultants. Of course, our team. The main attack was also going against our donors and those who recipients of our funds or supports in authoritarian states. And all of these make you think that what kind of alternative you have, how you can protect your financial privacy when you even have political support, when you protect it on EU soil, but at the same time, your banking data just abused by dictators, 3 dictators, and people whom you want to help, or those who supported you financially, they became a target of harassment or smear campaign in more than 20 languages. So Bitcoin became an answer for it. It's not like I'm Bitcoin maxi or something like I'm just using it and not as an investment, just a payment and crowdfunding instrument. It became very practical and a tool to save lives. Maybe sounds pathetic, but it's actually for us exactly how it is. In many authoritarian states, and we live in the world where majority of the countries authoritarian, you don't have access to financial services. If you are a relative of those activists or human defenders, journalists, if you just support it, sometimes even if you're just a lawyer or a doctor, or you, for example, rent apartment to someone from their circles. So this is the reason why you can be financially excluded. And this is the reason why peer-to-peer transactions with Bitcoin is the only answer, because any financial institutions, no matter if it's crypto asset services providers or exchanges or banking system, they controlled by the regime. They are in hands of dictators.
Yeah, can you just break it down for our listeners? Just think that a lot of people listening might not be familiar with the term financial exclusion. So could you just give some examples for what happened, whether personal or just in general, what can happen when this takes place?
To make it sound more like close to European speakers or US speakers, I will explain. I live in Brussels, right? So as many of you, I didn't use a cash because why? I had a credit cards, I had debit cards, and my bank accounts hold my money, right? Back in 2018. And suddenly I wake up with information when then my first bank account was terminated. Okay, I thought I will open the new one. Without, of course, explanation me any ground, anything. I said, maybe it's some coincidence because bank doesn't explain you the reason why he close your bank account or freeze your money because of, ability to say that due to anti-money counterterrorism regulation checks, we just terminate your bank account. It sounds extremely abstract and you don't know where to go. Your lawyers basically say nothing about it because no explanation. You're going to open an account in other bank. But when it repeats 4 times, and for NGO, for foreigners, sometimes it's only few banks who actually want to provide you services. You start to ask what to do when all banks in the country where you are resident terminated your bank account. And what is the reason? And this is one of aspects which shows you that you effectively cut off of traditional financial institutions, banking. You cannot rent an apartment. You cannot have insurance. So basically, you have only probably cash, but you need to have a place where to get cash. You cannot get your salary. You cannot pay taxes. You can do nothing, financially excluded. This is what it means, that you effectively cut off of ability to function in society. In authoritarian states, it has more dramatic consequences because it means for you that you live in a prison, but you kind of still able to walk on the streets. Sometimes not. But what could be a reason for your financial exclusion? For example, you help to donate money for families of political prisoners who have no right to work, who have no right to drive, who have no right to have medical services, social security, anything. So you just donated, for example, $1 to $3. This is normally the amount of donation. And this is the reason why your bank account is going to be terminated. Why you going to lose all your money and access to them. And this is a way how financial exclusion works. In my case, it was more dramatic, more drastic, because the organization which I run, it's based in Europe and in the US, and 3 authoritarian regimes we are, abusing trust between different states and abusing financial action task force recommendations. It's institutions which create regulation for all over the world, for all financial institutions. So dictators learn how to use and abuse this kind of trust to get all your banking data. And what is your banking data? It's every day of your life. Where you go by Uber, what you bought in a pharmacy, where you pay in which hospital for your doctor, where and how you pay for your rent, what you spend in holidays, where you spend your holidays. So why dictators at all need to have any detective agencies? They don't need to. They just can simply request from state to state, abusing banking system, your banking data, and they can destroy your business. They can destroy your family. They can smear you with use of AI on obscure website. And any financial institutions, any your work, anyone, your university, your place of work, your community will cancel you. And this is a way how basically regimes abusing financial institutions. And this is what it means, financial exclusion. It has really like damage for all your life. And I overcome it together with my team. I teach other activists in many countries how to overcome this financial exclusion with use of Bitcoin, especially peer-to-peer transactions, because any exchange doesn't want to open us account or, to maintain us because it's too risky. It's too high compliance for them cost. What does it mean? They lose license and it means end of their career because it's not because bank or exchanges are bad. I would not say like this. It's because anti-money laundering regulation written in such a way that financial institutions, they don't want to have small clients. They don't want to have NGOs. They don't want to have immigrants. They don't want to have elderly people. Like, look, what's happening with financial exclusion, it's not abstract. In Luxembourg, just recently, over 30,000 of elderly in small business, elderly people in small business were de-risked, how financial institutions said. What does this mean in practice? Their bank accounts were terminated, closed. They have no more access to their ENG bank accounts just because they are not profitable for bank. And this is result of regulation which was created initially to protect all of us and our financial security and end up making us exposed to financial exclusion for basically depriving us the right to have financial services.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, it's not only dictators. This happens, it happens recently in Canada where some of the truckers, they were opposed to lockdowns and also they were targeted for this financial exclusion. And it also happens with people that are trying to transfer money to other countries. Let's say you move from one country to the other, you don't use the bank account there for some time. The bank can close your account and not even let you know about it. So you could send it to your bank account and it's just kind of in limbo. And maybe you need to send it to your family. So this is also a way that you can send money, even if you're not living in a dictatorship, but you just need some fast transactions that are cheap. So that's also a reason to use it.
Yeah, money became weaponized, and this is one of the most dangerous precedent. The same, like, for example, communication. Everything around communication and privacy is also right now under risk to be weaponized. And this is something what all of us living in democracy, which is small, really small bubble. Majority of the countries is authoritarian or dictatorship. This place where we live, where we actually have privileges to use our rights, to still enjoy some kind of privacy, it's shrinking and shrinking because if we don't defend our rights, we're going to lose them. It's so important to be active right now and speak in defense of privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you're doing this across Europe because it's not just post-Soviet, like Monica just pointed out, locations that need to have attention on this. While it has been a while since there have been an official bank run in the US, that was in the early 1800s at the last. And, after that, that's why there was FDIC insurance on your account. But if you read the fine print, that's only up to $250K. So if you have anything over that, there's no insurance that you're going to be able to get that money back from the U.S. banking institution. So I am all about seeing further regulation that's going to work in favor of the consumer and their rights to own their financial assets outright. While they're working on that, Bitcoin is definitely a tool to help overcome that. I want to ask you, Lyudmyla, about your work with ODF and your vision for how you feel that it can help and serve, because really there's a breadth. So what is your current vision with ODF?
Right now, what we said, it was very important that we work across in Europe. I used to think when I was younger, as a PhD student, before I was even established in Open Dialogue Foundation, participating in Orange Revolution back in 2004, that if I work on human rights in Ukraine, I will fix it and I will be able to secure and, happily live in my country. But time after time, when I started to meet a lot of activists, learning their stories, understand how regime cooperates with each other to abuse international mechanisms to prosecute people globally, I understood that it's impossible, just impossible to work with our country. Why is Open Dialogue Foundation? We not anymore focus just on post-Soviet region. Of course, we have expertise on this region because I'm originally from there, and we have a lot of our network of activists, over 10,000 activists, for example, just in Kazakhstan, thousands of in activists in other Central Asian countries like Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, Moldova, and other countries. But at the same time, we saw how Russia is able, for example, to cooperate and coordinate work on attacks on democracies for people who left countries and thought that they would be able to continue their human rights or opposition work, for example, from France, from Germany, from US, UK. It's not anymore safe for anyone who immigrated. And we even have specific terminology for this kind of persecution, transnational repression. You know, all institutions and state bodies, they say about transnational crime, and we say about transnational repression because it's worse than crime. Criminal cases, like regular criminal cases, you know, there are criminals, bad guys, and there is a good guys, right? Police, which actually stop these crimes. In transnational repression, you have state to state, which treated unfortunately equally. And if state is authoritarian dictatorship and they abuse state institution of democracies, it can ruin your life. And this is what almost 6 years right now authoritarian regimes from different countries trying to do with me and many other activists living abroad. They're able to get us through weaponization of banking data, for example, also weaponization of cybersecurity laws, saying, for example, that if activists, like what's happened with me in Belgium, because I was recording testimonials, basically witness statements of victims of torture and mass shooting in Kazakhstan back in 2021 and 22. We have online, not just like with you, we have communication, but imagine it's a personal relative giving us testimonials. So for these kind of videos, over 200 law enforcement agents, judges, prosecutors, and police who participated in tortures, who were named by name because it's the only way how you can stop tortures in such countries. They filed joint criminal complaint against me. With the state support, they find lawyers in Belgium and they opened criminal case against me, demanded to delete all of these hundreds of videos with testimonials of victims of torture, saying that their children crying at night. You know, 1 year old or 7 months child crying at night. Looking my video recorded in Russian, but this child actually from Kazakh region where no one actually even speak in Kazakh. Oh, sorry, in Russian, but they speak in Kazakh. So you see the absurd, but state of Belgium recognized this case because it's like protection of children, which used by dictatorship in order to attack me. And right now, of course, courts, one after one refuse, saying it's politically motivated. But this procedure can take years and years. The state dictatorship abuse state institution of democracy to drain me. Years and years spent for lawyers, not being able to do and continue my human rights work, damaging my reputation, and so on and so on. This is instruments many of people not aware. And this is why we need really to protect our privacy of communication, because what's happened to me is just one example, and I'm vocal about it. But imagine if one oligarch from authoritarian state want to undermine your business. How are you going to protect you? Do you have any connections? How your lawyer is going to advise you? How will TVN recognize that your smear campaign, like around you, organized by these oligarchs just to destroy your business? This is how it works. And in case of human rights defenders from one side, it sounds very drastic, right? Like enormous amount of information. But this is just because we're able to document and we know how to document it and how to present it publicly. Simple people, like your regular business, they have no clue, no information how to defend themselves. And these cases has to be defended publicly. And my role is to actually raise awareness. Don't be silent. Don't listen your lawyer when it says you, no, don't spread information about your termination of bank account or freezing your bank account or actually closure your bank account without giving you a reason, because all financial institutions will deprive the right to have financial services. It will happen anyway. The question is, are you going to defend your rights right now, and you have chance to have at least one bank afterwards afraid to terminate your services, or you lose all of them and you end up without any kind of financial services? Because if you don't exercise your rights, if you don't defend your rights, you're gonna lose them. And this is what's happening, and millions of people on the streets basically right now without banking services.
Yeah, it's so important to speak up. And a lot of people in the West, they take all of our rights for granted. And we think, we just have to sit back, relax, watch some Netflix, but that is not the case. You have to stand up for your rights. You mentioned encryption and that it's being under scrutiny. Maybe you can talk about your recent talk with the EU Parliament about this.
So we explain again, just in the case of how Kazakhstan, over 200 law enforcement agents abuse cybersecurity in defense of children's rights, to prosecute me and basically censorship my human rights work, being abroad, using all of these defense for the side of different political groups and organizations. So imagine right now what's going to happen with every of us. In context of defense against basically child pornography right now is going to be established chat control. So encryption is going to be monitored with AI. And of course, this information is going to be extremely vulnerable because different malicious actors would be able to make requests. They perfectly know that it works already with banking data, and they're gonna to do abuses the same with privacy, your chat communication. So you don't have ability anymore after adoption this kind of legislation to communicate privately, not only with your parents, friends, and people you love, or your workers. Basically, you're gonna be living in transparent world in one side because you don't know who is gonna to weaponize your privacy communication. And that's why it's so important right now, if you live in EU and if you're a resident or EU citizen, to ask your government to actually vote against of this chat control legislation. It's going to be discussed probably tomorrow. We're very upset that it's happening actually right now before even European Parliament settled its committees and commissions and discuss this issue. We believe that citizens has to participate in this process and our opinion has to be actually taken into account. And we very much worry that this data gonna be weaponized. We saw it and we see it with banking data, and there is no remedy. So there is no point with all cameras we have on the streets, with all provisions, how children has to be carried from place A, from houses, to place B, to their schools, universities, the teenager, and so on. So there are a lot of instruments in the physical world to be improved or to be executed to protect our children. We have to do it. But at the same time, it's no reason to eliminate totally privacy and make vulnerable, especially right now when we are under attack of so many regimes, Chinese, Russian, Turkish, and many other regimes undermining financial institutions. Interpol, as a police organization, is abused constantly, extradition requests, and there will be one more. So privacy communication. So how are we gonna to resist all of these attacks? There is no way. And it's so important for every politician who actually participate in this process or any regulator to remember that it's only one election which differ your country from being democracy to authoritarian regime. And the next election, you can be opposition. And this data of your privacy communication is going to be abused against your family, against your children, against your future. So think about, are you sure that you have to actually say goodbye to your privacy, which was so, high price actually gotten by many other generations, given their life, given their everything. So you enjoy today, and all of us, we enjoy today these privileges, which is not the case in many other countries.
And it always comes back to that, the safety versus privacy versus your own rights. So people will say, well, it's for a good cause. It's to help you. It's to protect you. And yes, in some cases, maybe it would. but power always corrupts. So this is what we saw with Edward Snowden. This is what we saw with Edward Snowden. Yes. And the thing is, privacy is important. And now when we live in this digital world, we need privacy online as well. We need
even
privacy
more than ever before. Even more than ever before.
Exactly. And it's not only for these kind of situations where it's about, human rights and protecting people, but even for everyday people, I don't want to share my intimate messages with the state. A lot of people always say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, you should be fine with it. But that's not the case. I think as a human, you have the rights to your privacy in your house and also now digitally. So this is why we do need encryption.
Absolutely agree. And it's so easy to violate rights. You don't have afterwards remedies. So you need to have a right for your privacy, communication, privacy of your financial data and transactions. It's crucial.
Lyudmyla, you recently met with the Czech parliament to speak about Bitcoin, and you had quite the presentation with them. Could you go ahead and tell us what did you guys talk about and how did they react to all of this?
We regularly meet with parliamentarians in Czech Republic and many other national parliaments of EU member states. We also meet with politicians, policymakers in US for one simple reason. We want to inform them what new technologies we have to address different kind of repressions, and specifically right now, financial exclusion, when dictators abuse your financial data or eliminate your ability to use a banking system or traditional financial institutions. From other side, we also inform them about, misinterpretation of certain facts. For example, right now we see attacks on Bitcoin mining in many democracies. And if we compare, for example, US and EU, the Bitcoin community in US is very active and very diverse, united from other side in their efforts to protect new technology, freedom technology. And they succeed. Right now you have the highest level only possible, only imaginable discussion about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining as a freedom technology in US. But it's not the case in EU. In EU, we have discussion in certain countries, generally, there is threat to energy security, environment security, if we speak about Bitcoin mining, which is not true at all. And our role was meeting politicians in Czech Republic and other countries to educate them about benefits which bring Bitcoin mining for EU. And it's, for example, it can be stabilization of the grid. It can be actually boosting and building infrastructure for renewables, which wasted. Yesterday, I saw an article how Greenpeace activists complaining that solar energy is so cheap. And this is the reason why it's actually no much investment in this area. But at the same time, the same Greenpeace, but in US, attacking Bitcoin mining, which is an answer to consume all of this wasted energy and transform it to the money and actually helping build those who are trying to use renewables in their business model, infrastructure. I don't know for which extent our viewers are aware, but when you produce renewable, it's first of all a limited time. For example, when it's solar, right, or wind. When there is wind, when there is a sun, you have electricity. Sometimes it's too much at one point, but there is nothing at another one. So Bitcoin is consuming those energy which no one is going to consume, and this is very important to know. And we're not trying to pretend that we are experts as a human rights defenders on energy. So this is the reason why we bring with us best experts, Bitcoin miners and energy experts who can explain benefits given their direct testimonies to politicians and policymakers so they correctly develop regulation which affects not only 27 member states of EU, but far beyond. For example, Council of Europe and Norway, Iceland, part of this community. And unfortunately, those countries follow in this narrative and they develop regulation to ban Bitcoin mining. And Norway, as a country for human rights, known for Nobel Prize for green energy right now, developing with majority of the parliament and the government, and both Ministry of Digitalization and Ministry of Energy, the project how to ban Bitcoin mining. And this is extremely worrisome for us because, as I said previously, it's the only financial instrument. We don't save in Bitcoin, right? We don't have money. Whatever we receive in donations, we spend it. like there is nothing even close to say, oh, we wait until it's growing. No, we just, what we receive, we immediately spend, because the amount of donations we get is just, extremely small. And the same with our network. But not having this instrument means for us basically death. Why? Because in the situation when you don't have other instruments, when it's the only one access to your connection to be able to pay your bills, to exist basically in the world, of course it costs a lot. From other side, for us, it's important to have political support in democracies, because you cannot defend political prisoners, you cannot stop torture, you cannot put pressure on authoritarian states without political support of democracies. So it means Western countries. So in the major situation of me, of Human Defender, why we started to promote Bitcoin and educate regulators was in US and EU, because they ask us, guys, we support you, we help you to protect political prisoners. Why are you using instrument which is bad for environment, which is bad for energy security, which is actually used by money launderers and just tool for money launderers? Why are you guys using it? And we said, look, it's not true. There is legitimate uses, but these voices have no power to come to you, because activists financially excluded. The last thing they think about to go in public, or coming to Europe, or they don't have funds to come and to defend their rights. So we try to be a bridge and defend their voices. This is the reason why we created Building True Change Coalition, or BTC Coalition, to educate regulators about all of these cases of abuse of anti-money laundering regulation, financial exclusion, but also use cases of Bitcoin mining in building renewables infrastructure in democracies in many other countries, giving opportunity, building communities like in Africa or Latin America, where people would never ever have access to electricity or would never ever have job. And Bitcoin mining actually opening these possibilities. We don't know how it's going to develop, but this is facts which we believe important to learn for politicians. Since the European Commission is about to issue sustainability indicators, and we know, because we analyzed this methodology, it's extremely negative, extremely discriminative towards to proof of work or Bitcoin mining. We wanted to bring these voices to national level. Czech Republic is playing crucial role, both in anti-money laundering regulation, both in sanctions policy development, supporting human rights, humanitarian aids in many countries, and of course also in energy security. For these all reasons, it's so important for us as Open Dialogue Foundation to bring the experts from different sides, to bring testimonials, and this is what we done last week and what we do in basically regularly, meeting in person, online, sending out our emails with submissions, where we document all this information to provide as much as possible objective, well-rounded information about new freedom technologies. This is the only way how we can resist all of these attacks on democracies right now.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing up Norway and Bitcoin mining. I was going to ask you, I live in Norway at the moment. And like you said, in the past, Norway has been neutral, if not slightly favorable towards Bitcoin mining. And it has even allowed taxation subsidies. Those are no longer in play. But there has been some recent changes there in how politicians are looking at Bitcoin mining. But like you said, it can be using excess energy on the grid, or in Norway, hydroelectric power that, is abundant here in Norway. So it's there are other factors to be looking at. And I do hope that if there are trying to ban mining, that doesn't mean like crypto in turn, because like you said, that would just be death for a lot of organizations, both for profit and nonprofit, and what the tech industry is trying to do. So I thank you for your work and education there. I think it's easy for cryptocurrency in general to get a bad reputation when that is such a tiny percentage of what is actually happening, or the potential that is seen in this new technology. So thank you for your work there. I do want to talk about some I'm not sure if I should call it a challenge or controversy, but in 2018, you did face expulsion from Poland, and you spoke to that briefly, as well as the Shenzhen area. You had mentioned your story, which I think is very powerful and one that we hope isn't repeated for other folks. But you said that you're pivoting and you're using your experience to help educate other people, not only on what financial exclusion means, but also how people can overcome being canceled through Bitcoin and teaching around what it means. How does that take form, this education and this teaching model towards others that might be facing financial cancellation?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. I just want to bring a little bit back to Norway and say one comment. And it's not possible just for me alone or even just for a few people to solve the issue of Norway. We need definitely support. We need Bitcoin miners on our side. We need everyone who care about privacy, new freedom technology to be on our side, and send requests to Norwegian government right now, to Norwegian parliament right now, with us have public discussion about so-called investigation to ban Bitcoin mining. Norway should not be a place where new technology, freedom technology is going to be banned just because of false perception. I can imagine that there are always in every industry bad actors, but it has to be very clear who is bad and why and what is real scientific approach there and grounds for there. And those who actually bring in benefits for society, they shouldn't be for political reasons, because this is like narrative right now against Bitcoin mining, put on this box. We shouldn't box freedom technology just like China or someone else. It shouldn't be a case in democracies. And we as citizens and actually residents have voice and our rights, and we have to exercise them. Regarding attacks on me, back in 2018, I was announced a threat to national security and classified in this way by 3 authoritarian regimes, just simply because of my human rights work. And those regimes, they thought, okay, this small organization, she's Ukrainian, she lives in Poland. Who cares? Like, we will, on her example, show that other Ukrainians would never be participating in Poland in any kind of protest. And a lot of Ukrainians participated back in 2017-18 in protests in defense of rule of law in Poland, because we grew up there, because Poland supported also Ukraine during the Orange Revolution, Euromaidan. Polish people provided a lot of humanitarian aid, still providing humanitarian aid for many Ukrainians suffering from Russian occupation and aggression. And of course, they stand on defense of rule of law and human rights in Poland. And I was one of the most known Ukrainians at that time in Poland. So it was easy to attack for government using all possible instruments: tax custom controls, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Justice, prosecutor. They tried everything, smear campaign in more than 20 languages on a daily basis. It was impossible for me to move on the streets because everyone was recognizing and attacking me from those who were supporting the government. But at the same time, I got a lot of support from people who were on my side and on the side of rule of law and human rights. It was a difficult moment. It was extremely difficult and challenging moment. But I tried to understand my case and say myself, okay, what's happened is happened, just face it. And, you help to overcome hundreds of political prisoners, how to deal with it. Just do the same with you. You are not Lyudmyla Kozlovska, you're just one of those whom you going to defend. And this is how you're going to deal with this. And this is how I done. I just wrote again the plan. I discussed this with my team, my family, lawyers, how we're going to defend ourselves. And we used exactly the same mechanism, public campaign, because I have nothing to hide. All of these accusations were absolutely fake. And, it took me, of course, a lot of resources, as you can imagine, both psychological and financial and everything. But we won. We won, and I'm not anymore a threat to national security, neither in Moldova, neither in Poland. In Kazakhstan, it's still authoritarian dictatorship. I would say even they going after a lot of critics and also organizations, but they lost reputation. And they less credible. They still, as I said before, prosecute me and try to use different means to open a criminal case, to stop my human rights activity, but we're resisting. And Moldovan government and prosecutors, they apologize, said it's politically motivated case. Polish government has, especially in the face of former Minister of Special Services and Vice Chair, deputies, media controlled by Polish government at that time, they all have to apologize according to decision of the court. Special Services said it was no ground, like recently elected government and new already formed Special Services said no ground to assume me as a threat to national security. And of course, the court of all possible instances, they also confirmed there is no ground to scold me as a Russian agent, money launderer, extremist, threat to national security. All of these false accusations, which were basically thrown out against me in many languages. And with all of these decision of the courts, with all of this political support, I was not able to protect my banking data. And I ask everyone who is listening to this podcast to understand how vulnerable with your banking data. So imagine me, after getting all of this support, protection, not able to protect your banking data. So your banking data actually the same transparent. And right now, governments in EU working to make transparent your privacy communication data. Imagine how it can be weaponized against you, your future of your children. This is the reason why you should be active, why you should ask questions, why you should be active on social media and as journalists who are promoting this kind of laws or those who don't understand what they're writing or promoting. Ask the questions. How is going to benefit you if you're under attack? So it's so important. And I think my example, I'm using it all the time for everyone, not only in authoritarian states, but also in democracies, especially business people. So they understand how their businesses are going to be destroyed just by malicious actors. Because, if it's easy for dictators, why it shouldn't be easy for just your competitor?
Exactly. And let's break it down for people. So Bitcoin basically is decentralized, meaning like all of these miners, they uphold the network and they basically get monetary compensation for it when they do these kind of equations to get the next block. It takes a lot of energy, but a lot of times, if you compare it to Amazon or any other big database, it's basically the same kind of energy use than all of these other data centers. So if you want to ban Bitcoin, it also makes sense to ban Amazon or ban a lot of these other data centers.
Yes and no. With one, there are two aspects. First of all, Bitcoin mining data centers produce more heat. And this heat, for example, in case of Norway, is used to dry fish, to actually produce heat for greenhouses, to produce food where it's so hard and so costly to green food, right? Especially on the north. And it's used also in many countries in this way. Even in Florida, it's used to dry actually vegetables or fruits or even sometimes clothes. It depends what kind of model you choose. Data centers of Amazon or Microsoft and other big companies, they don't produce enough this heat and they are not flexible. Bitcoin mining is able to turn off when it's high peak, so when everyone consumes too much energy. And again, actually economically turn on only when the energy almost costs nothing, when no one wants to consume this energy. So this is so important. And I also learning all the time. For example, recently I learned that if you want to build data centers, you first need to build infrastructure. So if Norway or any other European countries, they want to have their own data centers, and I assume everyone understands that your data is the main weapon right now. So you're not going to keep your data in African countries or somewhere else, right? For just simple security reasons. It means that you need to have prepared ground for this. So Bitcoin is actually helping to build infrastructure for energy, actually build a specific knowledge people, getting them paid to have these qualifications. Because if you put immediately big data centers, it will be not profitable. And this is the reason why big corporations would not come to small cities. But small cities still want to have control on their data. And especially in a moment when AI is going to be more and more, and all of our, IDs and everything is going to be digitalized. And this is why we should as much as possible care about our privacy and learn about new technologies. So not taking all of these false narratives in mainstream media for granted. Check it.
Are you interested in any of the development in Bitcoin, like the layer twos that are starting to come online? Because Bitcoin mainly is used only for financial transaction, while you have like Ethereum and Solana, they're used more like a kind of world computer where you have NFTs and such. But Bitcoin really, its programming language is slightly limited. It's mainly just been used, to save money and also to send money. But nowadays, a lot of these programmers are trying to build something more like an Ethereum where you can have NFTs and have like cheaper and faster transaction offline. Are you looking at any of that as well? What's your take on Bitcoin developing?
So, of course, I'm interested in Bitcoin development, but I have to say that I cannot be expert on everything, right? I'm learning. I'm just like, for me, the most important thing was to use it as a money, actually, and as a payment and crowdfunding instrument. Although we were defending developers and using as one of interesting case study, Guatemala case, where Bitcoin blockchain technology was used to protect election results. So basically ballot sheets in Guatemala in summer 2020. And then authoritarian regimes were thinking that they would be able to manipulate the result of the election. And they won because pictures of those tally sheets to Bitcoin blockchain were irreversible. So they cannot change the time and what was there. And as a result, they have to acknowledge they lost election. And of course, they were persecuting Bitcoiners who developed this technology and judges who supported and actually implemented this technology. And our role was to bring these testimonials on international level to protect both developers and judges. And of course, to show how this technology can help to secure not only financial rights, but also even elections. And against AI fraud and against corruption cases. And of course, it's only instrument. If you don't have observers who is paying attention to what exactly stand and place on Bitcoin blockchain, you can be manipulated. But when you have motivated people and you see clear, transparent technology, how to secure results, this is going to work. And this is what we're definitely interested in. And I think it's just the beginning. It's so massive what can be developed. So we're looking for new instruments which could bring this freedom technology.
Yes, this is such a good use case, just having elections on blockchains, then we can clearly see the result. We could even follow it in real time, and there's not going to be any disputes afterwards. So definitely something to look into.
I want to take a moment to focus on you personally, Lyudmyla, and just your drive, your passion, and ask you some questions about yourself. It's obvious that you're passionate and highly informed on human rights and Bitcoin advocacy, as well as how to get attention from political leaders. I just want to ask, how do you personally stay so resilient and motivated against such powerful governments and dictatorships? How do you keep that resiliency going?
I guess because I know that my story, I anyways have more privileged life and a more secure environment comparing to other cases. People I defended for, and it's like hundreds of political prisoners, so we have to be released. And every time I remember their eyes, how they hug each other, how they fight for each other. So this momentum, it gives you courage that you will also overcome. I remember the momentum when I first entered the detention facilities of those who were politically persecuted. And I remember the eyes of those people. Sometimes these people are broken and you're the only hope. And you want to be this hope. You definitely want knowing what this person did to have this person released. And you put all of your efforts. And you're extremely happy when you get it out. So it's like, you understand the value. So some people jump on the mountains or go to the, mountains to feel adrenaline or dopamine. I feel it when I see one more person who is fighting for freedom released. I really enjoy this moment, and my team, I feel myself a little bit like a doctor, because doctors also save lives, right? it depends how you're going to go in your life if you have a good doctor, right? So I believe that we have to have our role. Everyone have unique role. And this is something what gave me courage. And I thought, okay, I'm on the attack of all of these regimes. I'm facing it. It's actually kind of confirmation that I'm effective in my human rights work. I knew that it's possible with this kind of consequences, but I never thought that my banking data can be so much vulnerable. Honestly, I saw different kind of persecution. And I saw, for example, kidnapping from Italy of mother and her 6-year-old child just because they are members of oppositional leader and they were living in Italy. And Kazakhstani regime find the way how to play them, kidnap them with a charter plane and then have them as a hostage, just to force someone to stop their oppositional activity. And I saw a moment when they come back, after all of our campaign, when everyone said, no, it's not possible they will come back. And they actually came back. Everything is possible. We were able to release people from the most, I would say, dangerous situation, like from Russian prison, North Caucasus. Again, I was comparing, I know it shouldn't work like this, but I was comparing myself, okay, I'm in Europe. I still have all my connections. I just need to distance. I defend myself. I just defend someone, just like this. And that gave me power. Of course, I do a lot of sports. I'm extremely healthy eating. I try to maintain my routine. And I believe it is crucial. I learn a lot about neurology. So normal people read books about someone's life. I read books how to understand my mind, my body, and how to make it strong. When someone asks what kind of movie you saw, what kind of book you read, and I say, I read everything about neurology and I say, listen about it. So I try to understand my mind and how to support it. It sounds maybe boring for someone, but I think we know so little about ourselves. And this is how different authoritarian regimes, bad actors, big corporations manipulate with our lives. We actually manipulated by algorithms, not understanding our body, our mind, and how it affects our lives. And I definitely don't want not only dictators, but also algorithms influence my life of my family and my, friends and so on. So whatever I'm able to do, I'm doing it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing such powerful stories and just giving us further perspective on the work that you've done. You've shared with us quite a few challenges, both in whether it's finding the right partnerships or getting in front of the right people through social media. Can you speak to maybe a current challenge that you're facing, whether that's getting the right support or if it's using the right technology? What challenges are you currently facing?
Thank you. This is a very important question. The most important thing for me, I believe right now, is to build coalition of people in Europe who care about privacy, who understand that if they don't invest, don't donate to organizations and volunteers who care this work, they're going to lose it. Not everyone is ready to participate on a daily basis, and it's fine. But it's important to take your voice when someone asks you. It's important to donate and actually, participate financially. How are you going to have your independent media if you don't pay for articles presenting objective information? How are you going to have someone investigated or submitted in front of you, your position, if you don't participate in it? And of course, my biggest right now challenge, how we're going to defend developers of free technology, because we see it's easier and easier with the pretext of security issues, money laundering issues, child abuse issues to attack freedom technology. And it means it's going to be attack to investors and users, developers, and companies who maintain these technologies. We have to be aware about it. We have to be loud about it. And we have to build solidarity, so-called, to defend it if we want still enjoy democracy, privacy, and our rights. And not only our rights, but also our future generations, because it's so easy to lose your rights. And it's so hard. Look how many countries were able to restore their rights and how many years they spent to restore their rights. And every time when I hear, for example, that, we don't care about politicians, technology will prevail in 50 years. Show me one authoritarian state where society give up, not fight for their rights, and they will prevail with their rights. There is no single example. No example. All of us, we right now able to talk, not being arrested, tortured just because we talk about freedoms, because someone did this job hundreds years ago, and we enjoy these rights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thank all of those previous leaders who took the time and saw the importance to do such inspiring work. What advice do you give to young people, Lyudmyla, if they are wanting to make a difference in the world? Maybe it's advocacy, maybe it's human rights, but what message do you have for them?
We right now have a specific partnership with youth organizations, and we see that young people basically deprived the right to have any property, any basically ability to develop themselves comparing to older generations. So you have to work almost entire day and you would get nothing. Your education doesn't provide you instruments to find yourself in the future. And this is extremely concerning. We can and we should change it. And one of the main change is to be active. Advocacy, it has to become your lifestyle. You need to understand that it's not about only, messages promoted in mainstream media, but first of all, it's advocacy for your economical ability to function. You would not be able to enjoy your rights if you have no financial instruments to operate, if your banking data weaponized, if your privacy communications is undermined. How are you going to develop? How you're going to be compromised? So you have to care. It's not going to be fixed without your participation. And your future in your hands. We as young people, I assume myself anyways young, no matter how old I am. And I think it's so important to be able to unite and actually advocate for your rights. Be open-minded, not follow mainstream, be critical thinking. It's so, so important, and be active.
Great advice. Yes. And if anyone listening, whether young or young at heart, want to be active and connect with Lyudmyla, we will be putting her socials, including Twitter, and you're active there, and LinkedIn in our show notes today.
Yeah, we have a Building True Change coalition again. It's a coalition of developers and users like human defender like me or other people financially excluded, Bitcoin miners, enthusiasts, those who actually support privacy and defend financial freedom, economical freedom. Join us, learn how to defend your rights and teach others. It's so important not to keep this information as a privilege, but actually teach and spread this knowledge with others.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And we focused a lot on the peer-to-peer aspects of Bitcoin, but you also mentioned the fact that a lot of young people, they, can't keep up with their bills or buy an apartment or a house, which was kind of normal for our parents, at least if you're living in the West, and it has a lot to do with the inflation of money. So we didn't really talk too much about Bitcoin as a savings mechanism, but it is excellent to preserve your wealth in it as well. It has to do with this monetary policy of Bitcoin that every 4 years, the issuance of Bitcoin get divided in half. So basically this kind of pushes the price up, and it's an excellent tool to, save your wealth, basically.
If I may interrupt, we live in society when regulation de-risk ability for doing business. And this is why young people kind of educated by, first of all, in universities, in school, everywhere de-risk, like you don't need to risk, but business, ability to create something, it's risk. Our life is risk. You need to have rational risk and be ready to do so. Be ready to be active. And this is why we believe this anti-manual regulation, it makes people's life so de-risked that there is no development, there is no business, there is no growth in European Union. It's too much de-risked, And these questions everyone has to ask themselves. Do I want to live in the future where I have no opportunity, where everything is so de-risked that I cannot move? And young generation has asked this question to themselves.
Yes, I agree. Your voice matters, and you do have an ability to do something, even if you are being oppressed or there is an injustice that you're facing in your own life. I want to take a moment and ask you if there are some mentors who have had a profound impact on your own life. And we also like to give guests a chance to acknowledge them or maybe even thank them publicly through the podcast. So, Lyudmyla, is there any mentor or leader who has made an impact on your life that you would like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yes, definitely. I had the privilege as being PhD students back in 2007 and until nowadays to enjoy mentorship and support of Polish former senator and speaker of the parliament, Andrzej Bielewieski. He has now more than 90 years old. He was for me example, his family was for me one of main example how they overcome political repression. He was a political prisoner for over 6 years, how he participated in rebuilding his country, how he was transferred and educated a lot of generation of young people all over the world. What does it mean to fight for your freedom? How to overcome political repression? And he, until this moment, basically one of supervisory board member of Open Dialogue Foundation, who give us all his knowledge, who give us all this support. And it was so important because, when you're under attack, a lot of people just give up. They prefer not to touch you. They under effect of this propaganda. And you see who is staying with you around. It's so important. I want also to shout out also to Marcin Święcicki, who also former member of Polish parliament, who was helping us to release so many political prisoners, so many members of Italian parliament, German Bundestag, also Czech parliament. They help us. Parliamentarians is, I would say, the main tool for us to release political prisoners and make good changes. So guys, if you're wondering how you can actually implement changes, talk to your parliamentarian, make your parliamentarian your defender, make your parliamentarian defender of privacy. Say him that you care about it, because a lot of parliamentarians who care about privacy, sometimes they're limited with this mainstream narrative saying about only security, that no one is from young people care about privacy. This is how all our rights are undermined. Give them support. This is so important to do right now and in future next 4 years when our lives is going to be shaped in digital world, because right now we're coming from this transformation. So I really, really grateful for all these politicians who supported me. Also, I'm very grateful for my friend and the partner in crime, Lyudmyla Kozlovska, the Human Defenders and Friends for over 15 years. So she played enormous, of course, role in my life. And whenever it's happening with me or with her, we always come together to defend each other. And it's so important. And from my family members, I think one of the most important persons who helped me to basically grow up, it's my brother. So, and also he helped me to learn and understand what is Bitcoin. So I'm very grateful for all these people.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to have people around you that support you and having that friend to just talk to. And yeah, it's great that you have this network around you to help you through those hard times and that you've prevailed. So it's great to talk to you. I want to thank you so much for this time. The message is really stand up for your rights. That saying, live on your feet and don't die on your knees. Oh, wait, something like that. It goes anyway. And I also want to ask you, how can our listeners connect with you? How can they follow you on social media? Could you share your socials and your websites again?
Yes, of course. The easiest way to contact with me through X, Twitter, LinkedIn also. I'm basically replying all messages. I use social networks exactly as it should be. So to help people who want to be helped, or to share information with those who want to be shared or to get their support. And our website, OD Foundation EU, you can also support us in all possible ways, accept also Bitcoin transactions through BTC Pay server, which is private for donors. Join us, be our volunteer, be our team member, be our part of coalition, be our donor. It's so important to build our human rights protection together. And thank you so much for inviting me for this important talk.
Yes, thank you, Lyudmyla, and thank you for your impassioned work that you do. It's so important. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Like and subscribe to never miss an episode. We've got some fantastic content lined up. Leave us a comment and review to help us grow.
Last but not least, let's connect on social. Follow us on X, the Anyas_IO, and the Anyas.io on Instagram and TikTok for exclusive content. Thanks again for being part of the journey, and see you in the next episode.